All right, we are live. Super excited to be here. I'm just going to make sure my LinkedIn is showing us, and we should be able to see it. If you're watching us live, hello, hello. If you are on the replay, hello to you too. I'm really happy to be here with these wonderful panelists to talk about what is a corporate fit really. I've given my panelists the opportunity to stray from the conversation in any way that feels right to them. And so want to make sure that each person feels the ability to flex, because I have my own definition of what it means to be a fit for the corporate culture. And that might give you some ideas on how I run things here. So I'm Misha Saffron. I'm super excited to be with everybody. I will show you, I figured this out this time. Look, there I am, Misha Saffron, my picture and my QR code. Woo! And I'm excited because with me today, talking about what is a corporate fit really, is Terry Beltran. I'm so excited for Terry to be here. There she is. And Natalie. Natalie, I don't know how to say her last name. I thought it was, you can unmute and tell us, because I thought it was
Ais.
Ais.
Ais. Yeah.
Ais. Awesome. Wonderful. And also we have Tremaine Friend, which I'm super excited to have here as well. So hello, everybody. Come in, pop in and say hello. Use your voice.
Hey, hello.
Hi, everyone.
Greetings, all. Very excited to be here. Thank you.
Yay.
Hola.
Okay. Hola. Somebody say hola, hola. See,
Hola, hola.
whatever language you speak, type it in the chat. So we're currently live streaming into LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask some questions, and I want those of you in the audience, whether you're watching live or you're doing the replay, feel free to type your questions or comments in the chat on whatever channel you're watching from. We really want to engage with you, whether it's now or later, and your experiences around what is a corporate fit. And what's interesting is we did have some conversations, some of us before this call, around corporate fit, culture fit, like what exactly are we talking about? And as a coach, I've learned to ask a question and let my clients answer it in whatever way it lands for them, because they are the expert of themselves. And every once in a while, I might ask another question. So we're going to start with this question. And when each of you respond to this question, I'm talking about my panelists right now, please feel free to say, introduce yourself first, your first and last name, the name of your company, give a little synopsis, quick little synopsis of what you do or the impact you make in this world, and then answer the question. So I'm going to let it be popcorn style for this round. So when you feel like you're ready to answer this question, it might mean there's a silence. Some people find silence awkward. I absolutely love silence. So take your time. Those of you watching this live for the first time, it's a 30-minute conversation. So we're only here for 30 minutes. So I'm going to read aloud the question that is in the view for the panelists and for those watching, because sometimes people need the auditory opportunity, right? So the question I'm asking my panel is, have you ever been told directly or indirectly that you weren't a fit for a role or a culture? What did that actually mean in practice? And how did it impact you or your career? So I will start by saying that when I was in graduate school and receiving my master's degree diploma on the stage, the department chair of the university went to shake my hand and hand me my diploma, and under a very big smile with teeth clenched said, "You will never teach anything higher than high school." Well, the fact of the matter is, I don't see that as an insult, because high school teachers were amazing for me. And I also had my very first job was at a community college. So it was kind of like, baha to you. But at the same time, it was like, I did not let it impact the direction that I took in life. to still be who I am. So, do you have a story like that? Type it in the chat, those of you listening. And now I'm going to pass it on to whichever panelist would like to come in first. And I'm going to mute myself so they can be heard very clearly. Who would like to come in?
Thanks,
Come on in,
Misha.
Terry.
Thanks, Misha, for that question. I'm Terry Beltran. I am a multicultural activist, you might say. I do multicultural marketing and help corporations reach the multicultural market, understand the segments and how different we are. I also speak with ERGs and also help entrepreneurs that are multicultural females with their companies. So this is a very interesting question. I come from a decade of a corporate world. I was an executive, and I did face that, not just once, but many times. And of course, being a Latina, you sort of step back a little bit. When you're passionate about getting a role, it's really disappointing. But I think that the one thing that I learned, and I always talk to ERGs about this and other multicultural groups, is that you have control of your destiny. So if someone says that to you, then ask questions. Why? Why am I not a fit, or what is it that who would be a perfect fit? So really ask those questions, probe. There's no reason why not to have those questions asked, and then never stop going for what your dream is or what you want to go to or where you want to be, because you obviously have a passion and something to bring to the table. And I always believe that the reason why multicultural employees are so valuable is because we're all different. We have different passions, different ideas, different experiences, and that's what makes a company competitive. So for me, that was what I did, and I was very much something that I'm so fortunate I did. I have a very diverse background because in a big, large company, I managed to be in just several different areas that I could actually have a concept of the product, I can sell the product, I can innovate the product, and I can market the product and sell it too. So it really helped me a lot to really just get out there, and I think I'm grateful for that question in a way, in a weird way, because it kind of pushed me and prodded me, and I thought, but I also take the opportunity to help others as well understand. When I see that, I don't want them to give up. I want them to move forward, to really move forward and understand this is not something that's pushing you. It's just going to catapult you forward if you let it. So you got to take it and move forward with your dreams, because you will succeed. Be positive about it and don't let them get you down.
Thank you so much, Terry. That's really, I really appreciate that perspective. And I also like the fact that you said first it's like this question, and then it pushed you, right? It kind of, and this is about like, how can we grow? Well, we get a little uncomfortable, right? We get a little uncomfortable. All right. So let's go to the next panelist. Thank you so much, Terry. Who's next?
I think I'll go. Okay.
Yes, please. And I have to figure out how to get you in center stage, but go ahead and start talking.
So my name is Tremaine Friend, and I'm the head of talent operations and HR for Talent Expands. We are a recruiting firm serving, the wide spectrum of organizations, mid to large size to enterprise, in the areas of human resources, information systems, technology, finance, kind of all the corporate empowerment areas. And this question is really pivotal for me as both an HR practitioner and a talent acquisition, leader. Throughout my career, I've also been the bearer of this message, through working with different clients. I think for me, firstly, when it was told to me, I think it was in my early career, it was a little bit of a blow, kind of knocked the wind out of my sails. And it really gave me pause. And then I started to look at the distinctions and what is the difference between skill fit and or culture fit, and what's really being articulated. Thank you, Misha, for the freedom to kind of take these questions and mold them and really, champion them. I think for me as a practitioner, this has been a term that has evolved, over the course of years, what culture fit means. I think there are organizations that really have a clarity about what that means, and they're using it in the terms of amplifying and also multiplying some of the best aspects and characteristics of their organizations. And then unfortunately there are experiences where this term is also a gatekeeper. So I'm looking forward to kind of delving in with our group today, and kind of unpacking and uncovering all of the applications of how this term is being used out there, because it can be constructive. It also has been, unfortunately, we'll say less than constructive. As an HR practitioner, we'll take a conservative approach, but I am very mindful of when and how this term is used, and how it's socialized internally in our processes, and how it's conveyed externally. So that
Thank you,
helps.
Tremaine. Yeah, I absolutely appreciate that. We do want to, in trying to diversify our different cultures in the professional world, we actually can shut people out. And so it is really important to identify, how do we communicate? How do we express what our perspectives are while also inviting other perspectives, right? Because there's a way in which, like, we've heard people say, okay, I'm anti-racist. You're being racist by singling me out. And it's like, okay, so how do we actually become more inclusive with all constituents, with all voices, with all perspectives? And so I appreciate the caution that you just expressed, Tremaine. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm still figuring out the whole spotlight, but Natalie, come on in. Oh, you're muted, my dear. Hold on. How do we get you unmuted? Let's see. Okay. Try it now.
Can you hear me now?
Yay! Yes.
Okay.
Come on in.
Hi, guys. I'm Natalie Ies, public speaking coach and keynote speaker at Assertive. I help leaders like ourselves own our voice. And I so loved hearing Tremaine's answer, and just thinking about, like, yeah, when that happens early on in your career, it is very nerve-wracking and almost dissettling, and you begin to question your worth, and you're new and naive, and you're trying to figure things out. When I was thinking about this conversation, this topic, I was looking at an article in Forbes, and a couple of years ago, they did research around this idea of culture fit, and found that people who succeed best in organizations have something that they call inculturability. And it was research from Stanford, and I think the Haskell, so it's like University of California. And the idea of inculturability, and I love Tremaine's insights as someone in HR, is that people are flexible with the adaptation to culture. And so that there was times where people who were initially hired didn't have a high, quote unquote, culture fit, but they succeeded because they were able to adapt and be flexible. And I think maybe the work culture was also adaptable and flexible to them. So they talk about 4 main categories of people that describe this inculturability, and they analyze the language and emails of, I think, mid-sized tech companies. And the 2 groups that did really well were, one, who were people who were flexible. They were able to kind of go in and out of different groups or cliques. And then there was the second group that might have been really like high on the culture fit, but promoted non-traditional ideas. So they kind of pushed the organization forward, but still, I guess, were able to leverage the relationships in that organization. And so it just made me think about, talking to Misha earlier about what do we mean by culture fit, and how I think that definition, there's a lot of room for people in that definition. And I really appreciated the idea of inculturability, because it doesn't need to be fixed, and it allows people to kind of balance that. How do I be true to myself, but also fit in, but also stand out? Like, it's that balance of, like, I want to make a name for myself, but I don't want to, I guess, be in a situation where our values are very misaligned.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. I love that you did some research before coming on the call. That's really wonderful. One of the things that I was exploring too was, like, and I think, Tremaine, you spoke to this, and you did also, actually all 3 of you, really, about, like, what kind of language do you have? And when we think about that culturability, right, it's like, okay, auditing your hiring language. There's like polished, likable, a good cultural fit can unintentionally signal conformity over creativity. So trying language that highlights adaptability, collaboration, contribution. And then also maybe in team meetings, like asking what's missing, right? Pause to notice the voices that haven't been heard, like the inviting perspectives that might be uncomfortable. So, celebrating differences in real time. These are just some thoughts that kind of came up for me. So whoops, forgot to show my own QR code, but that's okay. There, look, everybody, there I am. Okay. Um, and I like to be silly. And some, in my experience, being a culture fit or being a fit for corporate, I've been told that being silly and laughing easily meant that I was immature. And what a lot of people realize is actually, I bring the light in the room. I bring the levity, and people are more productive when they have me around. Not because I'm distracting them, but because I'm engaging and creating new level thinking. Are we ready to go to the second question? Yeah. Okay, cool. So if we stripped away the biases and unwritten rules, how would you define what a true corporate fit should, could, would mean in today's workplace? Who wants to go? Terry's like, I want to come in. Let me in. Let me in. Okay, let me unmute you because I think somehow it got done that way. And let's get Terry in. Come on in, Terry.
All right, you got me?
I'm getting you. You can
All
just
right.
start talking and I'll figure it out.
For me, it's being able to succeed without having to shrink who I am. In other words, it's so important that in today companies understand that corporate culture, corporate fit, they're the same thing. But it's so important because communities are watching and brands are shrinking because communities are watching and they're moving somewhere else. So to me, it's important that you allow someone to succeed and not let them shrink themselves because they contribute a lot to the corporate environment and culture. But just not that, the brand, its mission, its vision, and where it's moving forward to. And I see a lot more, I think maybe newer companies, because I work with purpose-driven brands, that really see this. They see how important their community and also their employees are part of that community and how important not only that, but their suppliers are. So it's really three-phased here. So those are really important. So if you allow someone to succeed and not shrink who they are, those that are outside in the community, as well as those that are suppliers and entrepreneurs that are also multicultural and are diverse and can see someone who looks like them inside that corporate culture, will definitely understand and feel much more stronger to not only do a great job for them, but also bring them forward with their brand and their sales into the right area that they need to be. So that's how I define it.
Thank you. It's really hard for me to shrink any more than I can. I'm already 5'1", but however, I have, obviously that experience where I was, handed my diploma after working my butt off to get my master's degree. And I'm told, you're not going to be able to do that. It was a challenge for me, but there was a way in which it felt like it was meant to shrink me. Right. And that was when I was in my 20s. And I had another experience actually only, where are we, 2025? In 2022, where someone literally looked at me as they were hiring me. I was in the final interviews. They were hiring me to be an independent contractor. And they said, I don't think you have enough gravitas. I don't think you're going to be a fit for the clients that I have in the corporate world. And I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. Here I am now 30 years later hearing this message. And I've worked with Chevron and Guy Carpenter and other corporations that have been like, we love what you bring us. So, that commentary about not allowing it to shrink you, If it does feel shrinking, then we have to make a choice. Do we stay or do we go? Isn't that a song? Should I stay or should I go? All right. Who's who's next? Thank you, Terry. Yes, come on in, Natalie.
What you just said was just so juicy because a couple of years ago, maybe at this point, I did a whole bunch of posts about executive presence from the Sylvia Hewitt, I think, who wrote the book, and Gravitas, all that thing. Oh my gosh! And then even in that comment is some bias. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I totally messed up the slide thing. I'm trying to get y'all
No
to
worries.
be spotlighted.
So
We're going to just
even
enjoy the rectangle now. Go ahead.
right. And I mean, trying to tease out that comment, there's so much bias around, like, as if there aren't people like you in corporate who are professional, capable, talented, successful, performing, right? And then there is some truth to certain groups might judge how you appear, right? Like certain, you know, workplaces or clients, right? Like we've heard those stories of, amazing, talented, I'm thinking of like Black women, investment bankers, project managers, VPs who have to send the white person in and then, close the deal. And they're the whole one, they're the brain behind the whole project, right? And it's like, don't tell me, corporate equals white, right? So, or as I, used to be in education, I'm like, oh, I didn't know reading and writing was a white thing. I had no idea. As an English teacher going to my first Literacy for All conference in Rhode Island, I'm like, why is there so many? Where the brown people at? Because in Boston Public Schools, we're all teaching reading and writing. Like, hello. So anyways, how would you define it? To be honest, I don't want to be contrarian, but I don't like this question because I feel like bias and unwritten rules are in the rules. Like, yes, we should, strive. And yet real people make up these definitions, these, companies, etc. And so, I mean, ideally, yes, you want a matchmaking, whatever, between behaviors and values and company vibe, right? Like there's some companies that are, work hustle 90 hours 90 hours a week, and they make it look fun. It often, gears to a younger age, and you just need to know, like, is that for you or not? And then there's other companies that might be a little bit more playful, casual. They respect work-life balance, take time for your kids, and that's a whole awesome vibe as well, right? And some people thrive in both. So those are some of my
You know what, Natalie? I want you to be a contrarian. And as soon as you say not to be a contrarian, well, but you are, and that's okay. Right? So I'm so glad that you took that space to say, I don't really like this question. Yeah, I don't know if y'all noticed the way I read it. Like I put emphasis on certain things as if, what the heck is this word? What the heck does this mean? Right? So I'm really glad that you came in and decided to be au contraire. Thank you for that. All right, you wanna
Merci,
come
madame, merci.
in? De rien, je t'en prie. Tremaine,
Well,
come on in.
thank you. Well, thank you for all, the comments. And I really want to take a different position because I think, again, as a practitioner and as a talent, acquisition leader, we also have to think about culture fit. This idea is a continuum from internal within the organizations, and it's manifested and kind of carried out external. If we could really, for myself, eliminate biases and strip this down, I think that we need to redefine what the face of belonging looks like. Because this is another version of what belonging is that's been, kind of put into a lens that's been hyperimposed. And now what we have is this experience that's adversarial by those who are receiving it. When there are those on the inside who are championing something new and wanting to be this continuum, this beautiful kaleidoscope, but yet we don't have the wide adoption, right? What does it look like to have a quality of higher or looking at amplification, in terms of diversity, right? So I think the way that we are calculating the formula in itself in measures, that's our bias. That's the biggest wall. And so I'd like to see that torn down, and then looking at what are our contributions, what are our amplifiers, and I'm going to continue to go back to that word because isn't that what we're all doing with as business people, is trying to achieve, bring something into existence, amplify a tangible impact. So I think this is a huge opportunity because the whole system needs to be rewritten. And I just want to give us kudos to those who are out there, internal, external, and at anywhere in the continuum, because you have culture, within the cultural speak, if we're going to say, you have culture fit within a function, within a department, within an organization, and they're sometimes championed for being really creative. Well, their corporate culture is innovation, within a much larger systemic idea of what culture is. So it's happening incrementally, and it's happening, I think, at a wide kind of broad stroke. So I think this is an opportunity. I like the question because how can we re-engineer, or not even re-engineer, how do we evolve into a current state? Because measures of any kind are going to put someone on the outside or someone on the inside of whatever the qualifying criteria is. So how do we have qualifying criteria without it being destructive?
So another contrarian and not so contrarian and middle of contrarian. We're all over the place. I love this. Yes, and
Because I
I
experience
really
it.
right. Right. You and for you, because you're in that recruiting realm, right? You actually have to look at, am I setting this person up for success if I bring them into this organization? Right? And you
Absolutely.
can't go in and change the organization, and you can't change this person. And so what I really, I'm just going to be real honest with all of you. When you said we have to tear it down, I actually saw a piñata and really wonderful candy coming out of it as we broke it up and changed the way it looks. And so I think that there's a lot of truth to what all of us are saying. And that's why our world, our globe is so diverse. In one question, we can have all these different kinds of responses. And there's really no right or wrong unless you're hurting people, unless you're damaging people's spirits, right? So finding a fit or leaving what doesn't feel like a fit is an individual journey. And when you're already in there and you can't leave because that is your bread and butter, how do you work within the organization to accept, ooh, I just got emotional, to accept who you are in a place where you don't always feel who you are is a fit?
I think that's the question of, I resonate with that question so much because its application for me, in the way that I experience it and interpret it, is that is what we're doing at navigating life on life's terms, both in a
Yeah.
corporate and in every other. And my most simple barometer in the relationships that I cultivate with many different organizations is, am I, as a practitioner, able to amplify and multiply versus divide and subtract? So that's what I look for, and that's what I encourage people in any professional environment to navigate towards, is where can they amplify and multiply, and versus feeling individually subtracted and divided, and or whatever that looks like in all of its manifestations. And then that gives me a clear barometer for what is a constructive versus destructive, and then you just navigate that as positively as possible, right? Amplifying
Yeah.
both your own uniquenesses and your own distinctions within whatever landscape you're currently in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to make sure we give everybody an opportunity to say final words before we actually hang up. What I want to just say is, based on this conversation, I did pick the topic. In 2 weeks, I'll have some of the same panelists, some of the new panelists, but we're going to be discussing building psychological safety as the new corporate currency. And I'm really excited about that because, again, some people don't have the choice to leave where they currently work. And so how do they create an environment, or how do they get support in creating an environment that suits them? So as we wrap up, I'm going to make sure that everybody can unmute themselves. Please just remind the audience who you are and I'll put on the QR code so they can scan it if they're not already there, but people can also comment on this thread in the live videos on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. What is a tip that you want to leave the audience with? So who would like to go first?
I think there is an environment for everyone. And don't believe the lie that you're not a cultural fit or corporate fit. Don't believe the lie that you don't have what it takes, personality, skill set, or otherwise to be successful. Anything is doable, learnable, solvable, developable. So I think find people, I think as Tremaine said, to amplify and multiply. Look for those that can connect with you, who see your value and can help you find places that who need you, who are praying for someone like you in a role. They exist, I promise. You can do it. Again, I'm Natalie, public speaking coach and keynote speaker at Assertive.
Thank you. All right, I think I heard Terry come in also. Terry, come on in.
I don't know if am I muted? No, I'm not.
Yes,
okay.
You're unmuted. Go.
All right, sounds good. Well, I think that doing the unbiased thing is really something that's important for a lot of different corporates to understand, because we have new young people, a lot of them. I know as far as Hispanic community goes, we have a lot of young people. And we need to start understanding that they're expecting, a corporation or a culture that's definitely not going to be biased. And because of a lot of what they're used to. And I think it's really important because we have a pipeline of new people, new students from high school to college that really we need to remember that we're building a culture in our companies to bring them on, because we need always new people to come into our company. So that's really important. And working through that is definitely taking some training, some re-looking at things, using your ERGs to make sure that they're structured and not just celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, but being like very strategic for the whole entire year to 3 years or 5 years, and having a plan with their sponsors and their mentors, and not being used to just translate. That's a bad tripwire there, when they're not the professional translator. So that's what I think they should do. So I'm Terry Beltran. I'm a brand strategist, and I work with multicultural business owners and ERGs, and I work with corporations to make sure they reach the right target market in our wonderful multicultural market in the U.S. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. All right, Tremaine, come on in.
So, I mean, my encouragement and kind of the ad that I'd like to leave is that culture fit is actually something that we need to look at as a conversation and a dialogue. When you're exploring culture fit, what is the cultural climate of an organization? And what are the opportunities to calibrate to corporate culture? There are opportunities to really be an advocate for your own unique distinctions within a corporate climate. And what is the bandwidth of the opportunity or the space to bring new calibration or a new lens to that? So let's be more curious, about those, and also be more courageous in how we can add and amplify and multiply, the initiatives of an organization, and help them have a living experience of what diversity, uniqueness, creativity can bring to the table. So we're changing corporate climate experientially. And so then that way corporate fit isn't a barrier, but we can gravitate it from corporate fit to corporate climate to corporate collaboration to corporate calibration, something that is again in the instance of moving and evolving towards more, right? That collective greatness. My name is Tremaine Friend. I'm the head of talent operations and HR for Talent Expands. We're a recruiting firm headquartered out of Orange County, California. We work with mid to large size companies, helping them find their hard to fill talent in basically the corporate spectrum, from finance and accounting. Human resources is our primary, information systems, business operations, and we are extremely in a privileged position to both be an advocate for our candidates and good stewards of employer brands in making that connection to hopefully amplifying talent capabilities in organizations that really can benefit from their skills and expertise. So helping to amplify wherever possible.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, all of you. We're so lucky that you are in this world doing the work that you do. And just to wrap up, everyone, I want to thank my panelists. You're just beautiful people. I only have beautiful people on the panel. That's where I go out and I seek beautiful humans who are doing great things in the world. I'm Misha Safran. I am the founder of the Center for Empathy and Emotional Intelligence, where we transform conflict into connection by helping your people do peopling better. And so I am super excited. Again, next in 2 weeks, we will be having the conversation around building psychological safety as the new corporate currency. I look forward to being with some of you again. I look forward to our other panelists that will be attending. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Please engage with all the panelists and myself on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Instagram. Have a beautiful couple of weeks until we
Thank
meet
you all.
again.